Hunter McIntyre, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. Very cool sunglasses you have.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I thought I'd throw mine on, dude, after you politely turned up looking like the fashion diva that you are. But the first thing I needed to ask you, and I'm sure I know you've already addressed it, why did...
Those are my fashion diva
If anyone's
glasses.
not watching, Hunter McIntyre is the biggest sunglasses collection you've ever seen, the cheapest and the nastiest.
Gas stations, baby.
Yeah. Dude, why did you shoulder bars Jeramy at World Championships this year?
Oh, I guess I haven't really fully explained this just because I don't want to give it very much like wind. I think it's incredibly, I think it's super, I need to pause before I say this. It's not good for somebody like me to give too much energy to something like this because then the world gets to take it and make it something of their own. And it's not theirs, it's mine. The reality is that I've been running professionally for 15 years, and before that I was an athlete as well. Most people that participate in Hyrox are participants, they're not athletes. And they like to call themselves athletes because they've done a couple things on weekends that made them look athletic. But my life, everything revolving around it is being a professional athlete at the highest caliber. And I've had a much longer professional career than anybody else who competes at Hyrox at a high level. During that time, I've encountered tons of people that take an unprofessional approach to it, where they show up and this guy's just some grifty greasebag, reality television star that was able to get on the Irish team and get a little bit of extra attention. And what he did is he stepped into, you ever see somebody by accident jump into the lion's den at the zoo? And they're like, oh, that's cute. There's a bunch of lions in there. And they think for some reason it's a good idea to get too close to them, go past the fences. And that's what I am. I'm a fucking lion. I will kill you if you get in my way at a competition. And it has nothing to do with the fact that I don't like you. It's because you entered the lion's cage. And what this idiot did was act like an unprofessional person. We all talked a bunch of trash to each other, making bets before the starting line of who's going to win. And I went to go win, and I did win that section 110% with or without the encounter that we had. But he kept on cutting me off unprofessionally and racing like an idiot. And I'm not going to sacrifice my professional career because of someone's underprofessional manner who doesn't know how to race. You have to learn how to handle your body on a track like that. People get spiked and kicked and elbowed all the time. If you go back and watch any professional sport, there is a ton of energy behind these people besides just passing balls and running up and down lanes. There's ferocity, there's energy, there's concentration, there's focus, there's dozens of years behind my actions. And it just was one of these kind of things where the guy stepped in my way for the umpteenth time and he got the one response that most people wouldn't expect, but I expected it 110% because I've done it before and I would do it again. And I don't race for anybody other than myself because that's what an athlete does. I was representing my country that day, but I was representing my country as Hunter McIntyre. And you know what? I went out there, I did my job, and I don't think about it. I don't think about it at all. I think about the seconds that matter to win that race, and ultimately our team won the race, but my actions got us DQ'd. So, do I think our team should have been DQ'd? No, not really. If you look at most sports like this, when somebody does something like this, people get fined, people get suspended, whatever. But shit, man. I'm showing up to a race again soon. It doesn't matter. That shit's behind me. For him, it's still probably first thought, first day.
How do you think then we strike the balance between following guidelines of races and then also not taking things too far to the point where it really limits people? Because we see it with things like even in Formula One's not a contact sport, but there's ways, there's bumps, there's knocks, there's strategy in which people navigate within the sport in order to gain places or to move or dominate in certain areas. It's the same's gone with other sports for years. There's people like Roy Keane and other football players who have done the exact same thing. They stepped outside the laws of the game and it's made it entertaining. It's obviously helped people level up, and it's going to happen in sport all the time. But how do we get the balance right with that?
I don't think there's anything such thing as balance at this level. I think there's respect amongst men, competitors, things like that. You know, I've been reading Genghis Khan's book a lot recently, and it's pretty crazy how the man who's done the most amount of damage in the entire world of any one person had such a code of ethics. It was so insane, his code of ethics. I mean, he killed more people than anybody else in history, but his code of ethics of how he went about killing people, the way he handled himself, the way he spoke to people, the way people could speak to him amongst his hierarchy, amongst competing countries, it was insane. And you'd think, oh man, this man's a savage. Like, no, he's very precise. He's insanely precise. He's the most precise person, because he actually, until World War II, had conquered more lands than anybody in the history of time. He covered more miles. The only country that ever broke that was the United States in World War II when they were fighting in the Pacific and basically against the German front. But until then, it was only this person had covered that much ground. He had to be precise, but he also had to have a line of ethics. Otherwise, people wouldn't follow him or listen to him. And a man that has no line, a line that you can cross at any point in time, is not a man. My line was crossed. So, as men, competitors, whatever you want to call it, you have to have lines that you stand for. That is the definition of a man. Someone who holds their ground with respect, with ethics, with morality, with strength. I am that man. People may look at me as a flamboyant and wild person. I have fun while doing it. But do not get it twisted. Do not be confused. I have only stood here in front of you and gotten to this point because I have a line. And I hold it. You know, it's walk the walk, not talk the talk. So it's been there for all of time. But most people, especially these days, with the way that our culture is going, it has been moved and it has turned into a squiggly line. It has been erased. It has been adjusted. It has been thinned out. Because I believe the world is going into a place where feelings replace reality. And I don't care to live in that world. I don't abide by it. I don't live by it. I don't respect it. I don't listen to it. I don't dance over it. That's just not me. And people will be offended, but people who are offended, I talk about this all the time in my seminars. There are two worlds. There's the logical world and then there's the emotional world. So many people these days live in the emotional world. The emotional world is just this spirit. It is forever growing, is never controllable, and it can catch a gust of wind and become a tornado. Logic is this strong, rooted tree. It's a mountain. So many things can happen to it, but it will always stand fast against the emotional beast. That's the life I live in.
Dude, I agree. I think a lot of people replace feeling with thinking, which is two completely different things. But I mean, obviously, dude, you're my friend, so I'm going to be slightly biased. But I think these type of things, if anything, are only good for the sport. I think it makes more people see it. I think it's more entertaining. We see it in boxing all the time when they have the standoffs and the weigh-offs. I think we even saw it in bodybuilding with people like Kai Green and Phil Heath many years ago. I think the competitiveness and a little shoulder barge and elbows is good for the sport, as long as it obviously doesn't get taken a step too far. And you can even see from the day that, you know, Jeramy was kind of on board with it as well and took it like a man. But for you, dude, as well, you've often been called cocky, confident, even arrogant. So talking about balance, where's the line between ego and self-belief lie for you?
I guess an ego can get you killed, but like self-belief can do the killing. You know what I mean? It's having this control where, you know, I recognize that I can't jump off the Empire State Building because I can't fly. But there's some people that are like, fuck it. I'm going to do it. I'm the invincible. It's having that measure within yourself of understanding what you're really capable of. But one of the big things I talk about is if you don't say it out loud, the likelihood that it's going to happen is probably not going to be. I'm going to be the world champion this year. I'm going to destroy you. Everything that you know about yourself is wrong, and I'm going to crush that idea. You know, people be like, oh my, I'm like, well, no, that's it. I am painting a picture. I'm creating a story. I am making a statement, and I am putting it out there into the world so that everyone knows, and I have to hold myself accountable to those words. Now, the emotional versus the logical mind, my logical mind is like, I have to make this grandiose statement and make it be heard so that I cannot turn back on it. And then the emotional mind, everyone's like, ooh, how dare you? But you get it. Like, I mean, dude, also part of this world that we're in is kind of a little bit like the WWE. You can even see it in like track and field, which is such a truly not that exciting of a sport. Neither is Hyrox, to be totally honest. And, you know, if we're all just sitting there at the table, just being like, oh, I wish you the best of luck, pal. No one's going to get that excited. So I think it does take a little pizzazz. And I bring that to the table too, because I think it's fun.
Yeah. Did I agree? I mean, I said 8 years, maybe like a year ago, that I thought you, maybe before I even met you, that you were kind of like the Conor McGregor of the sport, and you'd carry the gauntlet for it in a way that people would wake up and listen to it. So I think it's only a better place with you in it. But do you think, are you a big personal manifestation? Because obviously you spoke about there about believing it, thinking it, feeling it, putting it into the future. I'm guessing when you're at that level of the sport, the self-belief has got to come from somewhere, but do you call it manifestation?
You could use a bunch of different words, dude. Like I pray 5 to 10 times a day. I'm not holding a Bible, but I'm praying. When I see 11:11, a heads up penny, there is all these moments of alignment with my thought. They're waypoints. You know what I mean? Constellations for my thoughts. And I allow myself to speak to them. Because, like a fire that's struggling to grow, you go, that's what you have to do. That's what manifesting is. That's this belief of thought transforming into an action, into a reality, into an outcome. And it's very difficult if you're not continuously pressing it with your thoughts and beliefs. And the reality is that so many times in this world you are alone, even if you're surrounded by people. And you have to speak to those hard and distant objectives and make them close and make them believable.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, if you focus on, I think this is why negative people get stuck in those negative loopholes as well, though, because if you always are feeding your brain negative things and you're not going to get it, and you're a failure, and it's never going to come, and I'm never going to hit the such and such a time in the race, you will never get it, because you're going to lean into the habits and the tendencies that feed that. But obviously, with your whole character and the shit talking thing, who's the one competitor you think that you respect the most in the sport?
I guess Tim. Like, I would say that about Tim, even if he didn't win the world title this year. Like, Tim showed up in 2021, and I remember he crossed the world, the finish line as the world champion in his age group. And I remember like Christian being like, that's someone to look out for. This is in 2021. And then we started racing against each other in 2022, and he raced at world championships. Then he got hurt in 2023 and 2024. And Tim like always just showed up and never complained. He doesn't make excuses. Like, he doesn't have any of these things that show up that are like, you can't really punch holes in his situation. Like, he either showed up in shape or he didn't, and he's got no excuses for it. And he's going to give you the best version of himself, and he's given a lot of very good versions of himself. And there's this there's this whole range of people inside of sport where there's like the doers, and there's the talkers, and then there's the people that are like, at any given day, they could have 15 different positions. Tim, when he shows up, is a top 3 guy almost all the time if he's healthy, and then he can go have beers afterwards. And that's somebody I look up to because there's balance there. Like I've drank beers with Tim many times. Tim and I sat together after Glasgow, which was the hardest race of my career, and we drank beers all night. He had taken second place. I sat there. I was very disappointed. We were just sitting with each other. He's like, dude, you got it. You'll come back. And it ended up being just he and I at World Championships. That was just a race between he and I. And at no point in time was I like thinking poorly of Tim that whole race. Like, fuck Tim. I was like, I'm going to catch Tim. Like, I want to race against Tim. I want to give Tim the best race of his life. I want to break Tim. But never did I think negatively about him because there's nothing really negative to say. That guy's just a stand-up, good old-fashioned German racer. So I respect that about somebody. Like another person's like Toby Lautvine. Like Toby has done so many amazing things, and most people don't know his name. He's been a world champion. I think 3rd at World Championships, 1 European Championships. He's just stellar. He's just, steadfast, holds it up, gets the job done, and is cool about it afterwards.
Yeah. I guess this is sometimes maybe that WWE effect that people don't see. As in people like, there's a bit of a showmanship that goes on, but then after the war, there's peace and people shake hands. I mean, I saw it when you guys were in Amsterdam as well, and you were obviously shit talking at the Puma event, and then you were, best buddies afterwards. And that's the element of the respect that is the underbelly, I guess, of most people's relationship within the Hyrox sport. But saying that, who gets under your skin the most?
Some people, dude. I don't need to talk about the people that I don't like. It doesn't help. These people know I don't like them. People probably in public know I don't like them. But I thought about it. Like, I could spend so much time bashing these people, but I'd rather just beat them. And I've already done that so many times. And that just feels so much better. It's the hook that goes in under the skin that just doesn't come out.
Mm-hmm. So what's the race? I probably know what you're going to say. Or the moment where you actually doubted yourself. Maybe been like mid-race, mid-comp, pre-comp. Was there a time within your career so far where the self-doubt kind of leaked in like a poison?
I thought during the 2024 World Championships that I maybe had done some damage to myself that was irreversible. And I didn't know that I was fixed and I was out of it until World Championships 2025. Now, I can't prove it because I didn't do all the physiological testing and things like that, but you can have what's called metabolic damage done to yourself. And I had basically crashed my metabolism so bad by overtraining, undereating. And, I had a really hard time where I gained a lot of weight afterwards. And then I had a really hard time getting it off. I got sick a bunch. Like I was worn out. Like I do this one thing where I do grip strength and I test my grip strength. My grip strength was bottomed out. My resting heart rate was up like 8 to 10 beats per minute every single day compared to where it was at its lowest. Like I'm a 29 to 33 beat per minute guy when I sleep. I was like 40 to 45. I was just like, what? It was crazy. Like it was crazy. And I couldn't figure it out. And it was one of these kind of things where I was like, dude, has old age hit me? Did I do something? Did like a leg on the table break? Like, what am I not seeing here? And I think a lot of it was actually physical, but then the physical dent had gone very deep into this mental state where I was unable to achieve it. And for some reason, now that I've broken the shackles, I feel like myself again, as weird as that sounds. But it was almost like this shackle on top of myself. Like I even remember when I came out to train with you when we were in Australia, like I did that first 10-mile long run at like the equivalent of like a 5:30K. And it was so hard for me. Do you remember when we went all the way to the end and I had to walk for a while? And I was like, dude, I just, something was wrong with me. Like Hunter McIntyre destroys things, destroys training, destroys races, destroys people, objectives, challenges. And it took me such a long time to get back. And it was terrifying. Like I was the king of the jungle. And I was like, I broke myself. I cannot I cannot get away from it. I can't breathe. I can't sleep. I can't do anything. Can't race right. My metabolism's fucked. I can't get lean again. And now I'm like, it's just so weird. Like, to live in that place for a while, it was almost like a mental prison.
How much though do you think? Obviously, you came away from World Champs that year, burnt out, but then you went straight into a tour, and you went to Europe, and you were doing all these seminars, and then you went from doing that to obviously then traveling to the other side of the world on a different time zone, which a lot of people don't understand how much that actually takes out of you. So you had all these other contributing factors on top of the burnout from World Champs to then contend with when you were going back into a prep or working towards the next competitions.
Well, I'll speak honestly with you, dude. I put way too much on my plate. I have a hard time balancing it. I mean, I'm about to go from here to launching events on the weekends, to going to Europe, coming back, hosting my own race, to hosting a training camp, to a couple of weeks down, to going to Austin, Texas for Formula One, and then hosting my next event. Like, it's a lot. And you know what? It's difficult, but I like it. I love a little bit of anxiety.
I've witnessed it firsthand, because when you came to Australia, I became your full-time mother, arse wiper, cleaner, cooker, everything, dude. Like the man, I remember I had to put you to bed one day. Hunter's like a wind-up clock. Every now and again, you gotta almost plug him in. So I plugged him in, left him in bed for 2 hours, went for a walk, something to eat, nice stroll on the beach, ring, and about an hour later, dude, where the fuck are you? I was like, I'm just walking along the beach. He's like, I'm hungry. Yeah, put some rice and some chicken in the microwave and feed yourself. And then a minute later, see him with takeaway walking along the front himself. The man is incapable. If I don't drop you on a start line, incapable.
But everyone's got to know their strengths and weaknesses. I know my strengths. I'm a jet engine.
I agree.
I'm a thinker. I'm a philosopher. You know, these are my things. And the facilitation of things like food and logistics and silly things, that tomfoolery, I'm not into it. You know? And that's why we're good friends. You can handle that stuff. I can handle other things.
Okay, dude. Well, what was different from the prep from 2024 World Champs to 2025? Like, was the typical training week the same? How did nutrition change? What was the approach?
Give me 2 seconds.
You hot?
Huh. Dude.
Just for anyone who's not watching, Hunter McIntyre is now stripping off.
I am melting hot. Do you see how much I'm sweating?
We're going to be getting payment subscriptions through left, right, and center here.
Dude, let's
Hooch
go.
Daddy just absolutely, let's do it.
Nice. I would say that I just was really, I became my own coach again. I believed in everything that I had been doing for so many years. I really chased this idea where I put on the approach of these philosophies that I have, which is power, weight, and endurance, and then multiplying that towards things like altitude, towards my endurance. Power, I was working on just the strength training of just raw strength at a very, very high level, front squats, bench press, just focus on getting it up to the biggest number possible, changing the strength to weight ratio. And then I just made sure that I was running 60 to 70 miles a week, 100 to 115K. And in the mountains too. Like, it wasn't on the road. On the road, it would be probably about 140 to 150K. And I was just in there grinding it out. I cut out all of the discussions with anybody who was not giving me exactly what I needed to have. And I didn't mean like negatively. I didn't like tell people to fuck off. It was just more so, I can't date anybody. I can't talk to anybody. I can't spend time with anybody. I can't leave the house. And I became this bubble boy. I lived in a hyperbaric chamber, an altitude tent. Like, everything was measured to the umpteenth degree. My food, everything. and it became this hyper focus. Like today was different. Like I wake up this morning, I go for a bike ride, and I just kind of washed out my afternoon workout because I didn't need to. I didn't want to spend the energy because I knew I was going to be talking to you. But this conversation would never happen if I was in peak training mode. So that's what I'm talking about. Like the things that are the extras go away, and it's 100% all in. And I was having fun. Like I really didn't think about, numbers too much as far as like what other people were doing. And like, I was just like, I was really on Strava all the time, digging into stealing King of the Mountains and things like that. Like that was very fun for me. And, typically I would have a lot of friends out for training camps. Nope. I actually just paid one of my buddies to sit next to me during my training sessions with a whiteboard. And I would have Alana drive the car while he would sit there and write down all my splits and my heart rate. And they would just keep me accountable. And I did nothing else. And it was fucking awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I even experienced the change in your mentality and the change in your energy during that camp that you were doing. I obviously caught up with you a few times, and I could tell you were just way more focused and way more dialed in. And I think sometimes maybe even subconsciously that becomes a case of even the wolf who's climbing the hill is hungry, and potentially having that setback the year before was potentially putting some grit between your teeth. But the approach that you take is sometimes different from, I think, what others take with training, with, being in camp versus being out of camp. And a lot of different athletes do this, There's people who are super dialed in and focused, but then you have people of the world like the Paul Gascoignes, the Ricky Hattons, the Usain Bolts, who seem to be able to unplug and enjoy life a little bit more during those off seasons, and then dial it back in when they need to. And you're definitely one of those people who I've seen be able to successfully do that, where some people, their mentality doesn't allow them to unplug. They've always got to be on. How do you find, like, how does that happen?
Well, I've always been a very multi-dimensional person, and I need to have excitement. Otherwise, I can't have intensity. I think probably because I have ADHD, I was very medicated the entire first half of my life until I was 19. So literally the first half of my life until I was 20, I think, I was legally mandated to be taking medication. And that's because they were trying to like suppress the brain that I had attached to me, which was like so explosive, full of energy. And it could be very destructive or very positive. So I think if I just keep on digging down that hole of being very, very focused on one thing, it can become destructive. Because I also recognize the more fit I get, the meaner I get. I become like a fucking rattlesnake. I am dangerous. And, I recognize that like going out and hanging out in Australia, there's a reason why I'm coming down there to race and hang out with you guys for a couple weeks afterwards. So I recognize the importance of having a good time. Otherwise, you'll just get burnt out. And I've been doing this such a long time. Like most of the guys in the Elite 15 have been doing something of this caliber less than 5 years. I doubt any of them have been doing it more than 10 years, except for myself. Maybe Ryan Kent. I think Ryan Kent and I first started racing against each other in 2015.
Yeah, I mean, dude, even when I was pulling up your social media page the other day, and I think, I was scrolling through it, and I've known you for a while now, and I think the one word that I would just simply use when I even look at your posts from within camp as well would just be fun. And I then scrolled a little bit further along. I think it was to a post that was just after this World Championships, and it was the one that you had titled "He Who Holds the Spoon." And it was a picture that you'd posted with a wooden spoon, and then the caption read, "I would tell you a story where I once was to where I am now. I wasn't raised in a family of athletes, far from it. I myself didn't care about working out or sport until I turned 19. I was far from the hardest working man in the room. I was the goofball and often the one in trouble. I had no work ethic. I had no goals. All I cared about was getting fucked up and having fun. The wooden spoon in this picture stays in my dad's briefcase. It comes from a time when I was living high in the mountains of Nevada at a rehab for troubled souls. This spoon is a big part of my past. To have a spoon in these woods was equal to its weight in gold. In rehab, where we stripped of all our belongings and the niceties that I had grown accustomed to, I would often eat my food with a stick that I had just found in the ground. We weren't allowed regular spoons, knives, or forks because they would become a danger to us or others. If we earned the right to have supervised knives and privileges, we would use this time to make something. I decided I would make a spoon for my father, a token of apology and thanks for all the damage I had done. It took me weeks to make. The limited knife time was a challenge in itself, but the real holdup came from when another attendee decided to steal a knife and hold it in his sleeping bag while threatening to hurt himself or others. We had nothing. Anything we got was often taken from us, and we realized our future was always teetering on getting better or worse. I had truly lost my freedom. I was powerless because of my addictions and actions that surrounded them. When I left this place, I promised that I would never end up here again. Instead of drugs and alcohol, I chose hard work. I realized if I worked hard, I could own the room. No one could take that hard work from me, and I would continue to bring this value to the table over my destructive past. My dad showed me this spoon before I raced last week. I took the fire of what I had lost before, then put it into that race with everything I had. I use the same fire every day to make sure that when it's time to go, that I am the best version of myself. Very few of you will ever experience life in this way. The real lesson to this is that being the hardest working version of yourself will ultimately give you the freest version of yourself. Effort creates excellence. Be the hardest working version of yourself. Take the risks and then enjoy the plunder that comes with it. And don't forget to enjoy the ride.
That guy's a very smart person. Who wrote that?
Yeah. Do you think this is where kind of then you get the balance between the fun and the fighter? This is where that originates from?
I was all fun. Then I was all fight. And now I found balance. Like, I can't do drugs anymore. I tried. I just can't have fun with it anymore. So there's a different version. Typically, I go into the woods. Typically, I hang out. Typically, I just try to, laugh. That's why, if you notice, I, buy things like dune buggies and things like that. Like, when I bought that dune buggy, that might as well be buying a bag of cocaine. Just a little bit more expensive. And it's like this, and you get it and you ride it and you act wild for a bit and then you get out of it and you're like, okay, that was nice. I got to get back to work. Like, one time I drove that thing and the brakes weren't working and I had a date in the car. I just met this girl. The brakes went out and I only had the e-brake working and I crashed it into the fence. And I had to deadlift the dune buggy up off of the fence because it wasn't registered and we had to drive away. It was one of the highest I've felt in years. And I just felt that moment and I came home and I was like, wow, that was so much fun. She was like, wow, that was crazy. And I was like, whoa, Hunter, you cannot let that snake out of the bag again. Because that is a part of me at all times. But I think I've just found a way to quiet that version of myself because I recognize once it gets enough wind and gets up to full speed, I'm not very controlled with it. So I found a way to tame it. And sports have been a massive part of that for me. The amount of exhaustion that comes from the work that we do quells a lot of those very challenging and wild thoughts that are part of me. And I'm sure I will always struggle with this. You know, I will probably retire from sport and I will have to have something else that takes that much energy to allow me to be more of a subdued man. And I just know that's always going to be a part of me. And if I can find a way to keep it as a laser beam on the objects that I really want to shape, it's going to be incredibly magnificent whatever I decide to make. But if I allow it to get unruly, you know what's coming.
Yeah, dude, I think this is why we get on so well as well, because I'm one of those people who enjoys just being a big kid. And I think, like I've said to a lot of people, even the housemates now, is I think that's one of the things that you help bring out in me. And I was reading it in the book the other day that I'm reading at the moment. It's about having those people in your life who make you feel like a kid again. You've got to hang on to them. Like I even bought, I showed you that e-bike I bought the other day, which is
So sick.
fucking dope. Yeah, dude, I didn't tell you that the first day I got it, I crashed it.
Yeah.
So I was going down James Street, the main street in Burley.
Yeah.
And some dude was just swinging in left, whacked the back of my tire, and I crashed into another car. And I got home. I didn't really tell the guys. I had like blood all over my shins and stuff. But that was like cool. I love doing shit like on the bike, fucking wind through my hair, along the beach. Like it just reminds me of being a kid again. The same when we were in the mountains riding the bikes and going like fucking 50, 60, 70 kilometers an hour down the hills. And it just takes you back to being a child again, a kid again. I think anybody who allows you to go back to those periods in life, you've got to hold on to tight.
Dude, how great was Byron Bay on those bikes on the beach? That was
one of the best days.
Still to this day, I can like close my eyes and take a breath and I can go there. I'm like, dude, that sand was insane.
Yeah.
That sand was insane.
Yeah. Anybody didn't see the video, it was me and it was the guy called Zocco, who is Chris Hemsworth's personal trainer. And basically one morning, it was like 5 a.m. and we just got up ready for the morning. Hunter was like, we've got to go. I was like, where are we going? And he just like, well, just go in this dude's house. Turns out it was about 2 hours away in Byron Bay. And we just rocked up to this crazy mansion pad in the middle of the forest. And there was 3 e-bikes there. We got on them and we were just ripping it down the beach for a couple of hours and grabbed some breakfast. And it was honestly one of the best days that I had in Australia, was just being on that bike on the beach on the sand. It was crazy.
Dude, that's what I work so hard for. I work so hard so that when I have those days, I can own those days. I never want to get to a place where like, I can't, guys. I'm sorry. Like, but it takes that incredible focus and lockdown on the other days so that you can have those absolutely free days. Because now once you get into an adult, this is something that freaked me out and took me a long time to recognize. Once you put a piece on the board, you're on the fucking board, dude. And every time you make a lap, you're either making cash or losing it. And I work my ass off so that when I pass places and it's like, a high bill, I can pay it and I can enjoy it rather than suffer it. And like that trip to me, dude, was ecstasy. I think about Burley every single day. I figure out a way. I'm like, what do I do? Do I have to like kill somebody and recreate my identity and move to Australia and be happily ever after? Because my life's so tied here. But you, dude, you had the reset button. You got to go there. I'm so happy for you. You're living the best version of yourself in that place. It is so sick.
But this has been the real thing for me, and you're in that same realm of where this is the whole underbelly of my podcast is how do you balance self-development and being content, because they don't really lend themselves to each other. And when you're in environments like this, it really allows you to focus on building memories as much as it is about building money. But obviously, just going back to what you said there, dude, and a lot of people won't know this. I know that you like to put on this bravado, this Johnny Bravo thing, but I think a lot of people don't know that when I went through arguably like the toughest 6 months of my life and everything that came with it, changing circumstances, lost my home, partner, lost part of my identity for a while, lost my confidence. Like you were like honestly the dude, like a light in the fucking dark. You rang me every day. Sometimes you didn't even need to say anything. Sometimes it was just knowing that someone was there and cared and just wanted other people to know, like, I just wanted other people to know, like, how much of a good person you are beyond the joker and the meathead. And, the best thing about you is your heart. And I think not a lot, people probably realize that about you.
I guess maybe it's just not something you need to show. Just something I don't like it. It's not like spending money for me. That's free. Like I've had so many people do amazing things for me in this world that if I see somebody who is like a real person, I will always spend that energy, that time. I don't donate money to charity. I donate time to people. And like I consider that to be the thing in this world that I can truly give and make a difference with. And it's not like I looked at you like a charity case by any means, but it cost me nothing. And I enjoyed every single second of it. It's the people that you give yourself to that do nothing with it that you're just like, I can't give any more to you because you won't even know what to do with it. Like you clearly took a gigantic leap. You went and did all these things. It had nothing to do with me. I was just a ride-along passenger for the journey. And, I enjoyed it, dude. We did Amsterdam. We did Australia. We did the United States. We've done a lot of places. Hopefully you come to Chamonix, maybe. Dude, that is going to be sick. That is going to be so sick.
That's the great thing about like connecting with people on that level, though, even if it's friends on the other side of the world, is that we were just speaking before the podcast about people who say things but then back it up by doing a thing. And there's not a lot of people in life who do that now because they're soft and they make commitments to people and don't follow through with it. I think you get to learn a lot from people, not by what they say, but by what they do.
Yeah, well, shit, man. I just try to hold that standard. I'm not going to say I'm perfect, but yeah, dude, I think the one thing that I care about the most, at least at this chapter of my life, is the people I'm doing things with rather than what I get to do. I know that seems odd, but like, it's really cool. Like, I started a couple businesses and it was very difficult trying to create a team. That's probably the most difficult thing I have going on in my life right now. But now I finally have a team that I really love and respect. And we just did this tour, and the tour bus was falling apart. The brakes fell apart. It filled up with shit one day from the last person who stayed there. Like, all these things, but we laughed the whole time. And it wouldn't have been really worth it to make a bunch of money and do all these things with people that sucked. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think you probably get that, dude. And the weirdest thing and the saddest thing is when you get older is you recognize that a big part of becoming a butterfly is letting go of that kind of chrysalis that surrounds you. Part of that transformation is dead weight so that you can truly fly. And unfortunately, part of that transformation, that dead weight, is usually people. And it's fucking heartbreaking. I was on a mountain bike ride today, and I've done that mountain bike ride so many times with one of my old best friends. And I have not talked to him in 5 years. And part of my growth vertically was letting go of some of the weight that was keeping me down. And it's not meant to be like, fuck you, dude. It's just more like, it's just you're on to the next chapter, and some people don't come with you on that journey.
Yeah. I think that's a really difficult part that a lot of people who are listening to this podcast now know there's probably people in their life that they need to do that with, but it's not an easy thing to do. You've invested a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of experiences, a lot of memories. And it's almost sunk cost fallacy that people believe that they need to go through life with the exact same people that once served them for a period that no longer do.
Yeah. Dude, I even have trouble with it. Like, thinking that I'm walking around with a shirt that has a bunch of little bobby pins on it, like little button pins that say bad things about me because of bad things that I've done. You assume that people perceive you as something because you did something. And the reality is, dude, almost all of the issues you have with your life are internal. And you assume that, like, oh, dude, I haven't talked to Ben in a while. Like, fuck, I totally didn't write his text message back. And now every single time I think about you, I get anxious rather than just calling you. And you wear them, and it gets so weight bearing on you all the time. And it's just a thing that's kind of just useless. And like, a big part of just like my growth of where I go now is just having that conversation with myself over and over again. I had this guy who's a mentor to me, kind of like a mental guru, and he taught me this very interesting thing. And, you know, the way I say it right now may not penetrate with everybody who's listening to this because it takes a bunch of times of hearing it for it to actually enact. But let's say there's Hunter. And over top of Hunter is all of these layers of just laminates. Like, remember the projectors that you go inside of like a middle school and they slide something over and then they go through the slides and it keeps on putting things up? When something happens to you, now all of a sudden light kind of penetrates through one of these laminates, and it's like through anxiety and all these thoughts, and like you're having a conversation with yourself. So let's just say like I start to train and all of a sudden I'm pushing myself, and it's like, Hunter, maybe you're not good enough. Hunter, like, you know, you don't have it. Hunter, you're not in shape. And the reality is like, that's not true. And that's not actually Hunter. It's like this little anxious version of yourself talking to you. And when you think it's true, then it owns you. Where in reality is that these patterns are kind of always happening to you all the time, and stimulus kind of like it exacerbates them, makes them grow like a flame, as I said before. If you want to be able to gain control of yourself, you first have to witness them. So like, you witness them, and then what you take about a while to start witnessing them, weeks, a month, and you catch them. And every single time you catch them, write it down. And then once you kind of identify them when they show up and you recognize it and you start to see the pattern, then all of a sudden you can speak to it. You're like, hey, there you are again. Just to remind you, dude, I am in shape and I am going to do this. and you just keep on trucking. And what it is like every time that arrow of anxiety comes, you put the shield up, you block it, you put the shield up, you block it. And over time, as you gain more and more control of these moments, and this is just in the experience of training, now all of a sudden the arrows stop coming because you control the narrative of that moment entirely. And now all of a sudden this flood of emotions and thoughts just isn't bashing you all the time. And kind of the crazy part about it is once you gain control of it, it is this kind of very like peaceful, exciting thing. But then there's also this other thing is like the drama kind of washes away. And for somebody like myself, I'm kind of addicted to drama. I like a fight. I like a conversation. I like something to battle. And that was even difficult too. I'm not saying I'm enlightened by any means, but reaching this stage is also another difficult thing that you have to get used to. But it is really weird where all of a sudden, if you want to keep on going up these, like ascend in these levels of self-development and becoming a stronger, more aware and powerful person, you get there and then all of a sudden you're on unstable ground because you're at a new level. And it's kind of like playing a video game. It's like I defeated the last level. I know every character. I know every kick. I know everything, every jump, every area. Now I'm in the new version of it. I'm better just to have afforded the time and the energy to get here, but now I'm on a new level of self-development. And I'm in that kind of chapter of my life. I don't know if that made sense to you, but that's where I'm at right now.
You talked about there about shielding yourself from the arrows, and I think that'll resonate with people. How much do you think the exposure to things though helps with putting that anxiety to bed? Like, you can fear something that's in the room next door until you walk through the door and see like, you know what, there's actually nothing in this room. Because the thing that I take away from you when I look at your life and the way that you train, the way that you do things, you've put yourself in environments and circumstances in different places that you train, and you need very little readiness or priming to do it. I see a lot of people, I've trained with a lot of people who will need, and even I do it with my morning routine, is I'll need to do certain things to get me into the mindset and the zone to be ready. Whereas I remember when I came and did like a 2-week camp with you, you could be fucking about on the sofa or looking at boob books or whatever you're doing, and it's like bang, ready, gone, train. And the transition from either mindset is so quick. I think that's because of the way that you've exposed yourself to doing different things, which is different to most people who need to have the 20-minute prime or the morning routine or the spiritual awakening in order to ready themselves to go into the next thing that they're about to do.
I will say like a big thing that made me a very tough and hardened human being, and it's very hard to express this unless you've been to this place, but my first ever job was being a logger in Montana. My first day on the job, I'm 18 years old. They take me up into the mountains like 7,000, 8,000 feet in the sky, almost 3,000 meters. And they put me on top of this mountain. It's covered in snow. It's February. And I'm in like a pair of little mittens, like little jeans and a little tiny thin puff jacket. I'm like, what do we do? And they're like, start going down the mountain. In the thick snow, I'm marching down. I'm like, okay, we get down, we hike down like 300 meters. And I'm like, what do I do now? They're like, dig. I'm like, what? They're like, dig for the wood, find the wood. And then the chains come and you have to wrap the chains around the wood. And I'm in cotton little mittens and I'm freezing to death and shaking. And for the next 6 months, that was my job. The snow eventually went away, but the job didn't get easier. When there was less snow, there meant you needed to go faster because there was no excuses to go slow. So I just recognized that there was a lot harder things and I just needed to be primed and attack and be ready and want to be ready at all times. Like, I like this story of the cold bar technique. It was something that was created off these monks. When they were younger, they used to jump out of a ditch that's 6 inches big. And then every single day and week, they dig the hole a little bit deeper until the point where they're, an adolescent man. And now they're in a hole that's up to their head and they're jumping out of the hole every single time. Every single time they get in the hole, first thing in the morning, they get in there and then they jump out of the hole. So eventually they just get to the point where they're just like 100% primed and ready to do something insane at any given time. And there was this guy named Rob Orlando who was a strong man. This is my battle axe, by the way. And he basically would do this thing. He was a really good CrossFit athlete, strongman athlete. He would do this thing where he would just go into the basement and keep like 405 on the bar, and he would lift it at any given time. And he kept on making it heavier and heavier and heavier to the point where it's like, even cold, he was lifting 500-600 pounds at any given time. And I love that. And I pick movements like that all the time. Like right now, I do legless rope climbs. As soon as I get done with like a super hard bike ride, I get on this thing, I get on this rope climb, and I climb it up all the way to the top of this big ass tree and come back down. And my grip strength is just powerful, dude. I could punch through the chest of a tiger and rip its heart out. And, to me, I love that shit. And, I used to tease, I talk about it all the time still. When I lived with you, we would get ready to go running, and I was like, Ben, we're leaving. Ben's like, couple more minutes. Ben's doing his makeup and everything. I'm like, Ben, all right, I'm going to be outside, Ben, so I'm waiting on the curb now. And this is when I found out about these humongous spiders and the trees down there, because I would sit there just so bored because you would take such a long time. And I'd break tree branches off, and I'd throw them to the nets of these spider webs. And these huge spiders, the size of my hands, would crawl out of the tree branches and grab the sticks as if it was something living. Scared the living shit out of me. And you thought I was down there all bored. I was having the time of my life with these spiders.
The thing that you forget to explain to people is that like you live on Hunter McIntyre time. You don't live on like GMT or Brisbane time. I.e., I can be ready from 5 a.m. ready to go, and Hunter's like still lying in bed when we're about to go for a run in probably the next 90 seconds, and he'll be ready like bang, got, and then he's already at the house and he's like, Ben, hurry up. So I've been ready for like 2 hours, but now because I've mentally kind of chilled myself because I know he's still lying butt naked in bed and we're about to run in 90 seconds. You like to try and catch me with the element of surprise. Like I'm the one who's slow, but you just flip from, this is what I'm talking about. You flip from being butt naked in bed to like, now I'm going to run 20 miles. And this is the exchange, which probably because I don't have your ADHD superpower, it doesn't register for me.
Dude, lasers. Just letting you know, dude, I'm primed and ready. Are you excited about the December training camp?
Yeah, dude, I'm ready, always ready, born ready for anything.
Making sure that you're fit as a fiddle, dude. I'm riding, I'm lifting, I'm doing my push-ups, getting my miles in.
So this is the one that we're talking about doing in Oz?
I think we should do it. And if we just do it, if we don't do it, we do it on our own. We go to Crumbum. We rent a mansion. We have fires.
So what Hunter's talking about is, we were speaking about this the other day, for anyone who's listening, probably more so in Australia, who's going to be in Australia at the time. There's this place called Currumbin, which Hunter likes to call Currumbum. We're talking about getting 2 large properties where we're going to run an alpha man camp. So it'll be for dudes. And we're just going to be basically tearing up weights, going on long runs, ripping bikes, doing cool shit, eating good food, getting a lot of protein in, and then just ripping good conversation for a couple of days. And it'll be a good energy, good environment. Push yourself a little bit, see what your capacity is, see where your current capacity is and push past it, and just be around a cool group of people who you'll be able to have like-minded, good conversation with, and leave with friends and a lot of other cool shit.
Well, dude, we also aren't against girls. You know that Disney movie Moana, where like the girl pretends to be a guy? If you want to show up and dress up as a guy every single day, I'm cool with that. But you got to keep it tight. You got to keep the hair up in a bun. We cannot know. We got to believe that you're a guy. No, I'm just kidding around. But in reality, dude, like I love that kind of stuff. I have everybody up to my cabin as a training camp, and it makes me so happy. And it's like the most transformative experience. That's definitely the next chapter for me. Like I will always be successful in the way that we have all these businesses, but nothing makes me happier than taking a bunch of people into the woods and transforming them and just showing them. Like we got a man camp at the end of September. Whew, it's going to be glorious.
Yeah, I think they're the things that, like, when you're a good person, they'll light your heart on fire. And I've been doing quite a few of them in the UK, as people will know on this podcast, with the carry the weight events and stuff. And obviously we will run some for that'll be mixed events of dudes and girls as well. But on that, mate, I guess it kind of leans into what I also wanted to ask you, which is, what do you want people to remember about you that has nothing to do with medals or times or sporting accolades?
Well, I always wanted to be remembered as this, like, the hardest working man, but I also I don't necessarily from like an ego standpoint, I don't want to be remembered as this, like, oh, Hunter's so great. But I don't want to be remembered as a thinker. Like, one of the biggest problems I've ever had with my life is that it is so physical that I don't really get the opportunity to speak and think the way that I'm actually thinking, because the rooms that I'm in doesn't really synchronize with that vibration, if you know what I mean. Like the big, deep thoughts and the just kind of universal thinking of humanity, philosophy, history, knowledge, growth. I don't like sit here and be like, yeah, well, I'm the smartest dude ever. I read the mostest. No, it's like, I really am interested. I really am listening to Genghis Khan's book right now, because I'm so interested how a person like that could do as much as they did. What was that person? Why was that person? How was that person doing it? Not because he killed a bunch of people, but you have to be something so incredible to be able to make that much momentum in anything. And then how can you transform that into something better? And I think we are in this place of our existence where we are really struggling with like humanity right now. I think humanity is actually in a really challenging place. 10 years ago, not so much. Now we are. And I don't know if it's because of the way technology is shaping us, or if the world needed this moment in time to kind of be shook to create stability later. But I know that I'm going into the next chapter of my life where it is going to mean that I get to use my brain a lot more. And I would like to be a teacher a lot. Like, I'm really excited. I'm starting to work with Pepperdine in the fall, and I'm going to be able to work with these young athletes. And like, a big part of what I'm going to do is not like getting them fit. I'm going to get them mentally fit. I'm going to be a real mentor to these guys and girls. And like, that to me is so much more important than teaching people how to do wall balls and run faster miles. So I'm really excited about that piece.
I think that's the basic premise of impact, and what you're leaving people with, as opposed to a more efficient wall ball or a faster Hyrox time, is, I think, probably your biggest gift is that. And this is kind of the thing with this podcast, is that I wanted to go into your story a little bit more, but I wanted to save that for the next time you're in Australia when we do one face to face, because I actually think a lot of people don't know all the shit that you've actually done in life pre-Hyrox. I think people know Hunter McIntyre as the athlete, the Hyrox dude. And I think the reason why you are so successful at what you do today is because of the things that you've been through. You know, you touched on it briefly with logging and being outside in the snow, but the other parts of rehab, the choices that you had to make, some of the stories that you've told me that we've shared together. I think they're what have really built the identity and the foundation that you've then been able to push off, because your tolerance to pain, both physically and emotionally, comes from a place of where you've had to delve deep into parts of life for you to then come back out of them. And I think they're super interesting. It interests me a lot, and I'm sure it interests a lot of other people when we have another conversation further down the line. But they're the really interesting part, I think, that people don't know about you, that would be super cool for people to be able to know more about your life, that I'd like to go into. Because beyond that, dude, I think you got so much to teach the world and so much to teach others from those experiences. But, you know, for people who don't have those experiences and people who haven't suffered and gone through pain, and they don't have those things to lean into, sometimes life can be difficult. Like, some people, I think that's why people these days, like we were speaking about before, are going to be, you know, quote unquote soft. Or when someone dies in their life or passes away or someone leaves them, they're really going to be in a shit place because they've never experienced anything. They've not been through any pain. They've been so protected in the world that is around us, and we can sit behind a laptop and a keyboard and give people shit. Whereas, you know, you used to give people shit in the street, you get a slap. I think the consequences for people's actions nowadays is a lot less than what it once was. And I think you come from a place and a generation where that was still intact, and you bring that into the world that we currently live in.
Well, I can tell you right now, dude, if I could give you one lesson in this world, it's reading. And then I guess the other thing is stripping yourself down almost to the most bare version of yourself. It will be an incredible teacher. And that's hiking, backpacking. like real backpacking. I'm not talking about putting a backpack and going on to Europe, but if you have the capabilities of going into the woods and stripping yourself down of everything to the point where having a spoon is such an incredible tool and so important. If you lost it, you have nothing after that. Water is so important because you don't have a faucet. Where you pick to sleep is so important because you could either be freezing cold or get covered in bugs or mauled by a bear. Like, not mauled by a bear, but you know what I mean? Like, when you create this moment where everything you have that's really on your back and in your hands and pockets at that point in time is so valuable to you, it changes your idea and connectivity to the world and what you really do and your values and how you spend your time and how you appreciate things. And like, I think it's so insanely important to people. I think people need to get rid of all of this stuff, the iPhone, the laptop, the Grubhub app, the Uber app. Like, everything is just so much. Like, you can have anything at any given time, and it creates, like, even the dating apps. You can look at 1,000 girls a day and talk to 1,000 girls a day, and then you have no value for any of them because you have too many of them. And then when you remove that all from yourself and you really go out into the woods and you have so little that, like, when you're now on this passage and all of a sudden you do meet somebody, there's this barter system. There's a barter system of information, maybe the trading of food, the sharing of time. You truly respect these people. You have such a dynamic focus of time and face-to-face interface with them that you have to appreciate that moment, because you can't just scroll on your phone and text 500 different people at the same time. You only have this one person for this one moment. And the conversations are real. They're not like, when you talk to somebody on the phone, you can tell they're scrolling. That shit has destroyed communication. Texting has destroyed communication. And some of the most important things I've ever learned has been out on the trail. That is why I will use the trail as the teacher. It will be the teacher for me. It will be the vessel that I use to teach people. And it's life-changing. That's why I'm hosting this race, this Crestooch 127 thing, because I'm so fucking sick and tired of people going to races to make themselves a media project rather than run a race. They are a brand. They are this or that. They are a poster for what their accomplishment is rather than their accomplishment. And it's crazy. And I'm like, guys, fuck this nonsense. I'm taking you into the woods. I'm taking everything away from you. You'll have no cell phone service for like a half dozen hours, and everything you take is everything you need. And if you take anything less, you will suffer more.
Yeah, dude, tell people more about it and when it is and where it is.
I'm hosting a trail race. It's kind of like a backyard secret trail race where it's off of the PCT. And the reality is like, this is traveled by thousands of thru hikers throughout the year, but I want to use it as this thing where we're having these waypoints, 4 transitions running from one section all the way to the end. But you and your team is supposed to work like a special forces unit where basically you get dropped off in a section, kind of just like in one of these, like, the helicopter drops you in the middle of the night. They're like, we'll meet you at click 547 in 0600 hours. Like, it's like that. And you're depending on yourself, and there is no waypoints. There's no information. There's no handouts. There's no like, click, 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 dude, sick, dude, pose. Nothing. It's raw. It's real. And it's also very connected. Like, you depend on the people around you for real. No, not like, hold my race bag. How's my sports bra look? Like, it's some real shit. And to survive this is a real accomplishment. It is going to be incredibly hard. So you run through the Pacific Crest Trail and finish at my cabin. And we're keeping it very small, like 10, 15 teams. And it's insane. Like, the first section's 38 miles and 8,000 feet of climbing. That's the first section I'm going to do. Rugged. And you go through the desert to the top of a mountain. It's just like, holy shit. And I love it. Like, just saying it right now has got me so jazzed.
And what date's that on?
It's middle September, 12th and 13th.
Cool. I'll bring my journal.
Come. Tell us about your feelings. You're probably going to end up eating your paper. You're going to be so hungry out there. Again, it is so cool. So next week, I go out and mark part of the trail. When I say mark, like, I'm not going to actually like put things down, but I'm going to get information to share to people. But it's crisp. Dude, I cannot wait. I cannot wait. I hope you come and do it someday.
I think it'll be good. I think it'll be different to what many people have experienced in events, and I'm sure after people see more of it, hear more of it, it'll be a challenge that a lot of people would like to undertake and really get themselves out of the comfort zone of things that you think you're tough, and then you go and do something that really breaks you.
Yeah. Like, not to tease these backyard ultras, but you're going for a 4-mile run and you get to sit in a chair and all your friends rub your feet. Then you get to go out again. Like, no, I'll see you in 6 to 8 hours. I hope you survive. That's what this is. Run faster so I don't have to wait longer.
I like it, dude. Well, I'll if you've got a link for it, I'll try and put in the description of the podcast as well, so people can check more out of it. But what's next in life for Hunter McIntyre?
I go to Chamonix to go film the second episode of Endurance Freaks for the feed. After that, it's my race. After that, it's training camp. After that, it's some work with Puma, and then I have my Hybricon games, and then I just lock myself in for about 8 weeks to get ready to kill everybody in Melbourne.
And then we have some fun.
Oh, yeah. Roast some pigs.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go.
Can't say that.
We're going to have a pig roast in the woods.
Oh, God. We're going to be roasting e-bikes on the beach, and we're going to have good times and making many memories. Yeah. But, dude, thank you. Thank you for giving up an hour of your time. It's been great to have you on again. And I know that everyone will be seeing more of your face across YouTube and social media and stuff. And obviously, we'll be ripping it up in Australia in a couple of months' time. And we'll get another episode in then. We'll delve a little bit deeper into your story. But where else can people find you for now?
Type in Hunter McIntyre anywhere, you'll find me.
Even on OnlyFans?
Well, I wish, dude. You think I'd be talking to you right now? I'd be in a helicopter.
Dude,
almost.
Thank you for your time anyway, Chief. And for those who have listened in, if you are listening to the podcast, watching the podcast, please share it to someone else. Share it to someone else who needs to hear this episode, or just tag me and Hunter when you pop it on stories, because it means a lot. And if you can leave any feedback, comments or questions, wherever you're watching on Spotify, YouTube, or on Apple, please do so. And I'll catch you in the next one.